pew, pew, pew. Exactly. Hey, everybody. My name is Arnoldo Hurtado, and you are...
I am Gabe Gonzalez.
And we are both Northside natives, Northsiders. Is that correct?
Absolutely. From the Northside, born in the Northside, live and love there.
Excellent. Oh, and loved.
And loved.
Okay. So, what is this? What are we doing here, Gabe?
Oh my gosh. At our very first podcast as Northside Community LLC, we are here together as a couple of friends, a couple of queers, here to talk about what we do in the Northside and who we are.
Exactly. And so, bringing it back to who we are, let's talk about a little bit who we are and how we met. I think that's cool. I like telling stories. So today is a storytelling session, and that's going to be our theme moving forward, is telling stories, because that's like an old Ice Age level human thing that has been going on forever, right? And I think that's something that we need to keep doing.
Yeah.
And we're going to introduce some storytelling tools that we have apart from the podcast. This is the newest venture in storytelling.
Our newest venture.
Yeah, but let's start with you. So tell us about yourself. Who is Gabe, and what are your interests? What's happening right now in your life?
Oh my gosh. So, yeah, my name's Gabe. I'm an artist, I think, first and foremost. Currently an artist in residence with Move Texas. I'm super excited to tell you that I'm Artist of the Month. Not to toot my own horn, but I am Artist of the Month.
And in Austin. This is Austin?
So it's basically all around Texas.
Okay.
We meet in Austin at the summit, but we're from all parts of Texas. And so I'm representing Fort Worth as an artist, and I'm super excited to be there. I like to make art for the masses of Fort Worth. I do a lot of vending and opportunities to sell my art. All kinds of places in Fort Worth.
So like pop-ups, markets, and
pop-up
stuff like that?
I'm also an event coordinator for Northside Community LLC, which is why I'm here. I like to represent Northside, and I like to advocate for community change, for community culture, art, and small business.
Totally.
And making events to complement all those things in the Northside is my favorite thing to do. It was, I think, a really good hit last year with the past 2 years doing events. Okay. So, that was my passion. I think this year my passion is making art and creating community, I think, time for change, for information for the community, and advocating for Northside in general.
Okay. Awesome. So there's so much there. There's a lot there.
There's a lot there, sorry.
I mean, no, and it's fine. It's because we're complex, and there's so many interests, especially when you go back to that. You're an artist. An artist, I think, are complex creatures. Right. Absolutely. And I can say that too because I wear a hat of an artist as well. And so I know how complex we can get. But I want to zone in on that a little bit. So you're an artist. What kind of art do you make?
I love that question because, oh my gosh, it's so hard to explain. You know, I have a style that really envelops this like genderqueer kind of body made of nopales, which I call a nopalitex. So I've been stylizing this creature made of nopales to represent people in my family, myself, in sort of a Texas landscape. Definitely in the Northside barrio-esque version of a setting for these creatures. And I paint, right now, a lot of activism artwork. Okay. I'm working on a piece for abortion rights and pro-choice movement for Move Texas. So that is due Sunday, so I'm getting my butt to work on that one very soon.
Okay, you have deadlines.
I have deadlines.
That's good.
With Move.
That helps. That helps with artists.
Absolutely, because then I'd be working on it for, 2 months?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, that's the kind of artwork I like to do. It's really just what I feel to artist therapy.
So, recapping real quick. I always like to recap after a little section. So you're a painter. Correct. That's the type of art that you make.
Yes.
Because when we talk about art, there's all sort of creative arts, right? It's like sculptures, theater, musicians, but you're a painter. Okay, sure. That's important. Texas landscapes, very much informed by your surroundings and your culture. Absolutely. Am I getting that right?
Absolutely, yeah. I definitely, like I said, art therapy is one of the main points, is why I am an artist. getting my feelings out there when I'm frustrated and I can't put them into words is so therapeutic.
Right.
It just helps me move on to my next destination in life or my next, job or
Yeah.
things like that. So
Absolutely.
complex creatures, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so that's why art for me has been like a lifesaver too, because like you just put it very beautifully. It's something that we can use when words cannot express it,
Hmm.
or you know whatever the case may be. But art is so flexible with allowing you to emote, right?
Absolutely.
And it's like whatever you have, however you want to do it,
Hmm.
here it is. Go for it, and that's art.
Oh, beautifully
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I tried. Okay, so artists, complex creatures
Hmm.
in the north side
Hmm.
of Fort Worth. So
Big
I think
fan.
that's important, right? I think we have a character. You're the character in this story,
Hello.
bringing it back to the story and the context. Like, what's the setting, right? I
Hmm.
think the setting is so important.
Hmm.
And that's something that I want to talk about with our community because we're in the north side. But where is the north side, right? The north side
Hmm.
is in Fort Worth, Texas. What does that mean?
Hmm.
Like, that in itself is a whole character.
Oh my gosh.
And it's so important because it's all around us. It's what
Hmm.
we're navigating.
Hmm.
So I'm curious to know from you,
Hmm.
what is Northside Fort Worth? What is this place? Tell us more about it.
Northside Fort Worth. I think it's so rich in culture.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Hispanic community there that I think overpowers um, the main streets, all the corridors that come on flood into the streets. Whether it's the color of the houses or the people in the front yards, the Hispanic culture is there and it's strong. And it really is represented through, I think, the small businesses there. It's got art businesses, all kinds of event venues, mechanic shops, flower shops, salons,
Small businesses,
small
mom and
businesses.
pa.
Yeah, absolutely. And
100% agree.
and it's a beautiful place where that culture and small business I think collide, where a lot of hardworking people live. Um, and under that, I think it's one of the barrios of Fort Worth.
Mm-hmm.
To be real, it is that Hispanic culture, and it is a place where the the amount of money that people have is in the lower section of what other places in Fort Worth have.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think barrio is an ugly word. I think it's a beautiful word that describes Northside because it is full of culture, of that Hispanic culture, and we thrive with whatever we have.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what Northside is.
That's beautifully put once again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the north. I was born and raised there,
Hmm.
just like you.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree with everything you just said. It's a small business community. It's a community also, bringing it back to story, that has had a narrative written about it. Um, and that's a conversation that you and I have had before. And I like to bring it up because stories are really powerful when used correctly.
Hmm.
And also they're used to do harm,
Hmm.
right? And I think that in Fort Worth which has its own history, and we'll
Hmm.
talk about that later.
Oh yeah.
Um, but there's an overstory, right? Every city has an overstory,
Hmm.
and then every neighborhood has an overstory.
Hmm.
It's kind of like how do I paint a picture about this? Like a cloud.
Hmm.
Like the overstory is like this big cloud above you and your community,
Hmm.
and in that cloud is a story that can be full of rainbows and butterflies, or depending on the intention behind that story, it can
Hmm.
be thunderstorms and hail
Some tornadoes in
and
there.
causing all sorts of damage
Yeah.
to the community under that. Where does Northside fall under those two scenarios?
Ooh, that's a good question because I think Northside right now is divided into
Okay.
two clouds.
Hmm.
I think there is the what has been branded lately the Northside Historic Neighborhood.
Okay.
I think that's what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's where I live. That's where I see a lot of development,
Okay.
rainbows, sunshine,
Okay.
development. And then in another deeper part of Northside, I think up Jacksboro, near Sansom Park,
Oh, where I live.
past the stockyards. There's another cloud where it's the narrative is a little darker.
Mm.
That's what and I think the overhead cloud is one that Fort Worth has made for us, and I want to rewrite. I want a new cloud.
Mm. Enter Northside Community LLC.
Yes.
Right? So
Exactly.
that's a great segue
Mm-hmm.
to what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're trying to write a new narrative.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to actually write a narrative, right? Instead of having one written for us,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe you're right. I think that people have written a negative narrative of Northside that
Mm-hmm.
some people still believe, actually. A lot of people
A lot of
believe.
people.
And you can see it. You can see it on social media. You can see it when you meet people and you tell them where you're from.
Mm-hmm.
And you see
Oh,
their
absolutely.
reactions, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh, I've ventured there. I've been brave enough to go to Northside. You don't need to be brave. It's a beautiful place.
Right. And it's funny because one of the main reasons people go to Northside is
Mm-hmm.
because of the stockyards,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then that contrast
Mm-hmm.
is amazing because I love the stockyards, I have to say. Like it's a great place. It's full of culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like a big stage of cowboys and steers
Bull
and
riding.
bull riding, and it's changing really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the development I think you're talking about,
For sure.
right?
For sure.
Um, and it's attracting a lot of people. It's attracting a lot of tourism, which has been there for a while. But it's snowballing into something else,
Oh yeah.
right?
The new hotels,
Boutique hotels,
boutiques.
apartments. Like when you're driving down Northwest 25th Street on the hill and you're driving down and you see that huge development behind the stockyards,
Right.
you're like, what is that? Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's dividing the community. Is it dividing the community? I don't know. I'm going to ask you that question. Or is the community pretty set on how it feels about it? Since
You
we're
know,
in the north side and I think we have a pulse of what's going on. What do you think is the people's Northsiders? What do they feel?
my neighbor actually works at Taco Heads.
Okay, that's on
That's on Main
Main
Street,
Street.
right next to the ISIS Theater.
It's fairly new, no? Taco
Fairly
Heads, yeah.
new, right? He bought his first Camaro. He bought his first car. It's an amazing car. So I see that he's working hard in the stockyards, that he has this amazing ride. And for him, stockyards is a great place. It's a great place where work and money can come through.
Mm.
And he lives down the street from it. So it's like accessible place to work, and Northside is a great place to live.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, North or stockyards are an asset,
Okay.
right, to work there.
Mm-hmm.
But what it provides for the Northside community culturally is a division,
Mm.
I think, in my opinion. So there's the hardworking small business owners who have to fight against, the competition that comes with the stockyards. I think that there's a slight competition between like 25th and Roosevelt up Commerce Street, into Northside versus the stockyards.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Do you
what I
feel
see.
like they're being overshadowed by the stockyards and maybe not being provided the same opportunities of thriving as the stockyards?
I think
Is
so.
that what it is,
And
or
I think so. I think what you provided in the newest magazine, the map of attractions deeper into the north side, I think that's what needs to be shown on Visit Fort Worth, on
Okay.
Fort Worth, city sites,
Right.
things like that.
Another segue? You
Mhm.
just mentioned you just name dropped the magazine.
Ooh,
So let's talk about that.
yes.
And I think that can help us. It's all tied in, guys. I know we're jumping from here to here to here, but if you see the common thread, it's storytelling at the end of the day. And a tool that we are using for storytelling is this magazine. And if you haven't heard about it, it's the Northside Community Magazine. It's the very first and only community magazine and business magazine, because we have small businesses in
Right,
there as
right.
well,
Beautiful.
from the north side, focused completely on the north side. Uh, and we tell stories. We tell stories that you might have heard of and probably have not heard of. But that's the whole point of this magazine, right? Is to tell those stories ourselves, from Northsiders, from people who know what's actually going down in the neighborhood.
Right.
We've never had that. We always have people telling stories about us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But are we really telling our own stories in a way where we can reach people and say, no, 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 listen here, we're from here, and let's tell you what's actually going down,
This
right?
is it.
And this is it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 3 publications so far.
Right.
This is the second one here. And on the cover, you can see my brother's keeper from Northside High School.
Mm-hmm.
These are students who worked with prolific artist Juan Velazquez. And they created this Namor mural on Mercado Monterrey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on Roosevelt and 28th Street,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not mistaken, Northwest
so.
28th Street. So if you want to take a look at this awesome mural, it's just one of the works of art that is displayed in the north side of many, right? And we can talk more about
murals.
that.
Oh my gosh.
And more to come, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Which one are you holding?
So I'm holding issue 3, which on the cover is our Katrina from 2023, Dia de los Muertos. Our Katrina was a model and I believe, Arnoldo's sister-in-law.
Yeah,
Jayla.
Jayla
Is on the
Hurtado.
cover.
Uh-huh.
They made a wonderful, beautiful, extravagant dress made of the tamale husk, the hojas of a tamale. Dyed them themselves, arranged them themselves in a beautiful, ordained, crown, and then the dress itself. And you guys won what?
So that year we got second place.
Second place.
Second
Beautiful.
place. We competed at a Katrina competition in
Right.
Sundance Square,
Mm-hmm.
and we got second place, and we were just so
Amazing.
ecstatic. It was our first time. It was our first time
It was
competing there. We just
extravagant. It was
it was
crazy.
beautiful, and she did a great job. Jayla, beautiful, wonderful. Thank you for adding to the culture. And
Yes.
this year or
Mm-hmm.
last year, we did a new one with one of our team members. We have a team, y'all.
We do
So
have a
we're gonna
team.
talk about them, and I'm
Shout
sure we're
out.
gonna have them on in following podcasts. So Selena Cruz is our photographer. Selena Cruz Photography. Shout out to Selena. Thank you very much. And she was our Katrina last year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the last you've seen or heard of her. So look forward to what's coming up next.
On publication number 4.
Publication number 4 coming out in April. So look forward to that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what else are we missing? So we talked about small business community. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about the setting of Northside. Where are we? Fort Worth. Let's talk more about Fort Worth because that's
In
like
general.
the bigger over story.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're in Northside, sure, but let's talk about the context, the bigger context. What's up with Fort Worth? What do you see with Fort Worth happening?
Fort Worth.
Because you've been around,
I've been
right? So
around.
you can make
Not like that.
so you can make informed commentary
Mm-hmm.
about comparing Fort Worth to other big cities in Texas, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or even nationwide, however far you want to take it,
Right.
right? And then I can add to that on the international scene. We can talk about that.
Okay. So recently I've been in a placemaking panel at Arts Fort Worth in 2024, I believe, early spring. And that panel was asking me, what is placemaking in Fort Worth?
Can you tell us what is placemaking?
Let's
I'm
talk
sure
about
people want to
placemaking
know
real quick.
what placemaking is.
Is basically creating a space out of either an existing space or creating a new place for the community to thrive, for small business to thrive, a place that is walkable, that is beautiful, and that enhances the city by creating a place for people to gather
Okay.
and to just be themselves, be creatives, and
Can I
and
add
do
to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, because my understanding, I also worked on a project recently about placemaking,
Okay, right.
and this project was in collaboration with a lot of local organizations. So it was Artes de la Rosa from Northside Fort Worth. It was TCU, College of Education. They came in, provided a grant so that we could actually do that. And who else was involved? The Historic Northside District, the one you're part of.
Mm-hmm.
Hispanic Chamber of Commerce was one of
Mm-hmm.
them. And then we had my brother's keeper, my sister's keeper. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry, but I can't think off the top of my
There's a
head.
lot of collaboration there.
Yeah, and then we had restaurants that also provided food for noches de horchata, which were meetings that we were having. But
Right.
bringing it back to placekeeping, what is placekeeping? My understanding is that it's not creating so much as
Mhm.
it is acknowledging that there's already a community, right? Because
Mhm.
creating sort of implies or can imply that there was nothing there. And so you can come in and just do whatever you want.
No, for sure. And I think just to differentiate the difference between placemaking and placekeeping. I think there is that big difference.
Oh, right. So you said
Right.
placemaking.
I was talking about placemaking.
So you're right.
So just creating that original
Yeah.
space.
Okay. Good.
But
So
placekeeping is what we really want to do.
there we go. Okay.
That's what we
I
want
was
to do.
confusing myself. So placekeeping
Right.
is acknowledging that there's already an existing community there, right? And and allowing that community to reclaim the spaces, right, that are there and that were probably not resourced or activated, and now are finally, when the resources come, or the kids grow up like us,
Yeah.
and we're like, hey, like there's so much to work with.
Yeah.
Let's reclaim these spaces.
Exactly.
Then we go in and we activate those. Whether
Exactly.
it's usually it's through art, right? We did it through art. We paint the skate park at Marine Park. So now you go to the skate park. It was gray skating ramps, and now they're colorful, right? And color, that's another thing. Our culture, Hispanic and Latin culture, is so colorful.
Exactly.
So that translates really well to art,
Yes.
where it's just like boom, vibrant colors.
Yes.
We're not afraid of colors, guys. We're not afraid of colors.
Very colorful.
So go check it out. If you haven't checked it out, go to Marine Park,
Right.
the skate park, and you'll see the colorful new skate ramps there.
Exactly.
That's an example of placekeeping.
Placekeeping.
And it worked, and I'll tell you why it worked, because the community around that area, they noticed it, and they came out. I know, because we were out there several times, and they were like, "Oh, you guys are finally doing something to this place," and they're like, "This is gonna attract more kids to come out and play, more families. They're gonna feel like it's, activated." And I'm like, absolutely, that's what it's for. That's exactly what the intention is. And I'm so glad that it's the people who are already living there that are noticing it and saying thank you, and we want more. They were actually asking for more, like, when's the next one?
And I think that goes back to what I think about Fort Worth. It's giving more than it has when I was a kid. It's the creatives in Fort Worth are actually working, I think, now. Example, me and you. Like I was saying, placemaking is one thing. Placekeeping is totally different. And I think what Fort Worth is doing is a mix of both. And I think they're putting more money into placemaking versus placekeeping. So what I want to see is more money into placekeeping. I would like to see more resources into the Northside where we can create, like there's a space in between Artes de la Rosa and the other businesses next door, that little mercado right there.
Okay, yeah, I know that.
That's a spot for, I think they're doing placekeeping, where they're making it into a place where
and
you
that's
can
the
have
historic
markets.
Northside that's doing that,
right.
led by D. Lara O'Neill. She's a project manager. So props to where props are,
Absolutely
deserved.
yes.
And I'm hoping that with someone with her background, and I'm sure we're gonna get D on here as well.
I hope so,
because we need people with that background and knowledge and that soft power to tell us more, because they can go deep into how things work, and in that bubble of power, and there's people who can go into that and go out and help us understand how power works, because we really need to understand how the city works if we want to make positive change and not delude ourselves into thinking that things are going to happen and then they don't, right? Because I was one of those. I was giving so much, at least I felt like I was at one point, and then you only have so much to give before you deplete yourself, and then you have to go recharge, right? Recharging. So Fort Worth is the bigger story. And to recap, you said that you feel like it's trying to do both placekeeping and placemaking. Another word for placemaking maybe is like not another word, but maybe a word that can be attached to it. It's like gentrification.
Ooh.
Did I go too far?
No, you said it.
Okay. Do we know what gentrification is, people? I think we do, but I don't like to assume. As an educator, I don't like to assume people know everything, so I like to break it down.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is gentrification?
Can you explain? Because my version is like this visual story.
And I'm sure everybody has their version, because it's like this thing, right? It's abstract. It's not a physical thing, and it manifests in different ways. But I guess what I could say about gentrification is that one of the negative effects that it has, it displaces communities. like the ones that we're talking about. In this case, if we want to bring it back to Northside, it's like if gentrification happens in Northside, it'll just displace people who live there forever.
Absolutely.
And they can't afford the taxes. Usually it's like higher taxes, property taxes, and that's
Which
how they get
increase
you.
rent.
That's how
Which
they get
increase
you.
renters.
And then they're like, we can't afford this, foreclosures, or just their homes are snatched away, and then they got to go somewhere else.
Right.
And that is something that's looming, I think, in the North
Yeah,
Side.
absolutely.
And it's already happened in other communities in Fort Worth, right? What communities can you look at and point at as an example?
I would say the Fairmount area.
Okay.
From what I understand, the history of it was like a low income, level of housing place. And now it's, because of the developments there on Magnolia and everything, price increase, and I think it's pretty expensive to live there.
So I have a confession to make.
Yeah.
I used to work at OD White High School when I was an educator, an art teacher, and the drive there was pretty far from Northside. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go live in Fairmount. It was supposed to be like pretty happening.
Yeah.
As an artist, I was like, I want to be in the middle of that. So I did. I lived on Lipscomb, and I would actually sometimes I would ride my bike to school just to like avoid traffic.
Yeah.
That didn't last. We didn't have the infrastructure even back then to like ride the bike. But my point is that I lived there at Fairmount, and at the time, I paid like a $500 for a room.
Okay.
That's pretty expensive
For a room.
for a room. At least at the time, I thought it was expensive. But it wasn't as expensive as it is now, I'm sure. I don't even know how much it costs now, but that same room, I'm sure it costs like at least $800 for a room. This is a room.
Right.
I pay that much to have a room in Barcelona.
Really?
That's how much it costs, and you have a beach.
Wow.
And this is a cosmopolitan, world-renowned city. So I was paying the same amount in Fairmount.
Wow.
Which is like, we're in landlocked. Where's the beach? How can you justify that price?
Right.
But I was a teacher, so I was like, okay, like I don't have kids, so I could afford it at the time.
Right.
Yes, I lived between here and Barcelona, and but part of the reason for me is that it's like at the time when we were doing things as artists, at the time there wasn't a lot of opportunities. So let's talk a little bit about how we met, and then we'll get back to the Barcelona and why all that traveling.
The best opportunity that ever came to me was on Facebook. What? Arnoldo sent out a post. I think it was just a public post like, hey, who wants to help me out with this mural? I got a grant. Maybe you didn't say the grant. You had a grant yet, but I was like, whatever.
I said we were looking. We're going to look.
Yeah, I was like, whatever. I just want to do it. I just want to be a part of something rooted in the North Side. Coming back from Texas State, I wanted to reroot here and really find my community. And that to me was just doing an art project. And I didn't know the scale of it at the time. The Franco's mariachi mural on Azo and Long is ginormous.
It is.
It's big.
It is.
It was a feat of ours that we've done. And I think it was the coolest way to meet you was through an art project. I think that the way we met was really cool.
It's sort of a love story now that it's like Valentine's Day. It's very, very on point to like.
You're so right.
Right? I honestly, maybe I haven't confessed this to you, Gabe,
Oh my
but I feel like ours is a love story.
I love
it. Really is. For me, it is. That's the way I interpret it. And love has many, like art. Love has so many shapes and forms and ways of manifesting. And I've always said this: I'm a lover, not a fighter. I have a fighter in me, but it's love that pushes the fight. No, really. It's love, honestly, that drives me. It really does. And when I put that call out on a Facebook group that I created ages ago, like 10 years ago, I created this Facebook group. It's Northside Community Fort Worth, if you want to look for it. And yeah, I was like, I was so angry. And I think I posted about this. I was really angry because I had left, like yourself, to college. I went to UNT. I went to the art program, graduated. Did the Peace Corps after that for 2 years.
Right.
In Cambodia. So I learned Cambodian, lived with a host Cambodian family, came back to Northside. And when you come back to a place where you were born and raised and where your family still lives, you well, you come back with fresh eyes,
Absolutely.
right? Because
Yeah.
you've just been exposed to the world. You like college, you've changed. You're going into adulthood, you're maturing, and you come back and you see your family. And I was angry because of what I saw. I saw a north side that was in disrepair, under-resourced,
Mhm.
with a negative narrative. That
Mhm.
cloud was actually darker than what I had remembered. Or maybe I just became more critical. Who knows?
Mhm.
Probably both. Probably all of it.
A little bit of both.
Yeah. And that's okay. But I came back and I was just really angry, right? And I remember it's funny how it comes full circle, how back then it was during the time that the current president was going into office. I
Mm.
think around that time, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and I just remember our community being terrorized back then as well, just like now, right? It
Yeah.
was like history is repeating itself a little
Mhm.
bit. Um, and I was just so angry, and I just didn't know what to do with that anger. And I remember the exact moment I was looking out the window from my parents' house into the street, like thinking, this cannot be. What am I going to do about it? I just
Mhm.
had to do something. And the only thing, as a lover, as a person who loves and not a fighter,
Mhm.
my only thing I could come up with was I'm going to use art. I'm going
I
to
love
use
that.
art as a tool and harness all this anger
Mhm.
and transform it hopefully into
Mhm.
something beautiful in this ugly time,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and so I put the call out there on using social media,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
We're in the social age. I was like, well,
Absolutely.
I'm going to use this tool. And you responded to that love letter. You're like, I want to be involved. And I was like,
Yes.
okay. And it was funny because at that time, the group, I don't know, it wasn't that big. It was maybe 300, 600 people.
Right.
We're at 19,000 now.
Shout
Um,
out.
hello. And you were like, I want to come out and help. I want to
Mhm.
do something.
Mhm.
It wasn't just commenting. It wasn't just criticizing, which everybody can do.
Mhm.
You were like, I want to take action. And I was
Mhm.
like, that's my person.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of person I want to meet and do stuff with, not just someone who just comments.
Right.
Anybody can do
And
that.
I remember that one of our first conversations was like, "We're doers now.
We're
We're gonna
doers.
get things done.
Yes.
We're not just sitting back waiting for things to come to
Mm-mm.
us. We're gonna
And we've
do
been
things.
doing ever since.
We've been doing the most."
The most. The most. Get it right. The most.
Oh, for sure.
And okay, so we did this mural
Mhm.
with the help of the community,
Right.
which was another like huge thing,
Mhm.
right? It wasn't just about us. It
Right.
wasn't because I think something that happens in the art community too is that our egos can get inflated.
Mhm.
I've definitely gone through that, and I'm sure people have seen it. And but in this case, we extended the invitation to the community and said, we want your input in this. Like, we want you to
Right.
paint with us. We want you to leave your mark
Mhm.
in the north side.
The underpainting was the most important part of the mural. I mean, it led us to fill it with color, to use our artistic expression.
So we did like a painting by numbers type of
Right.
approach, right?
Mhm.
So people that didn't know how to paint, like, I don't know how to paint. I was like, okay, have your, painting by numbers? We'll divide it up like a comic book sort of
Mhm.
outline,
Right.
and then do swatches of color, and you just fill in the color, right? And they
Mhm.
did it.
It was so amazing to
Mm-hmm.
see the community come out like that to support us, to support any piece of art. I think was the spark that led me to just keep
Mm.
going with this project.
That's a good word. It was a
Mhm. Mhm.
spark. It
It
was
was a major
definitely a
spark.
spark, and people saw it and felt it.
Mhm.
And who did we depict in that mural? I think that's another
Oh my
story.
gosh,
That's a whole story.
our champions at Northside High School, um, los escuelas de
De plata.
plata, oh my,
Mariachi Escuelas de Plata.
escuelas de plata. That's
Hmm.
what it is.
And this is from Northside High School,
Right.
their mariachi program,
Mhm.
under the direction of Mr. Nino.
Mhm.
Shout out to Mr.
Shout
Nino
out.
because he's a big part of the story.
Yes.
I mean, the fact that he accepted, he didn't know what we were gonna do. He's like,
Mhm.
these people want to paint our
And he gave
students.
you the photographs of them, or
I went.
you
So I
went and took
asked
photos,
him, I was
right?
like, can I come and watch you guys perform in your mariachi program
Mhm.
at Northside High School,
Mhm.
which is where we went. I went there.
Mhm. I
And
went there for a little bit.
so he trusted me and he's like, yeah, come out and take pictures. I took
Mhm.
my camera. And the kids were just, getting ready. I think they were having a show, a program.
Mm-hmm.
And I caught them beforehand and I lined them up and took their pictures. And those were the pictures that we used to create the mariachi mural.
The most beautiful mural in Fort Worth, in my opinion. I love it. I love the way it came out. I love the process that we took with other artists coming in to help us. The projection was a great tool. The ice cream truck was at the forefront. Such a great tool to have instead of a genie.
I used to drive an ice cream truck that I converted into like a mobile studio for anybody who doesn't know.
I
So
love
I
that
was
truck. I
driving
miss
around
that
Fort
truck.
Worth, up and down Austin to
Yeah.
Austin to Fort Worth, just driving this ice cream truck that we called it the Art Scream Truck.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a mobile studio. I had all my paints in there
Mm-hmm.
and would even do like little shows, little pop-up shows
Yeah,
out
we,
of the
we were on
truck.
WFAA on that ice cream
Yeah,
truck.
yeah, 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 exactly. Oh my
Such
gosh, so
such
much
a
happened. So much
such
happened
a
there.
beautiful love story so far.
Exactly. And that
It's
was
just
like
getting better.
8 years ago,
Oh
eight,
my
9 years ago,
gosh.
something like that, right? And
Yeah.
we're still doing stuff. We're still
Mm-hmm.
creating. Um, and so, is there anything else between then and now that you can point to as a point of joy,
Mm-hmm.
as one of those sparks that you were just like, let's keep going? Because I can name mine, but I want to
Mm-hmm.
see what yours are.
Mine was definitely El Grito Fest
Okay.
at Portico Coffee. We had 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago, 2023. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing events then, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to create an event that had multi generational music of Mexican music, Latino music, and celebrate our culture for Mexican Independence Day.
Mm-hmm.
We had the luck, absolute best luck, of borrowing a stage for 3 bands that came on, a DJ, and it was so cool to see a mass of people come out and just enjoy the event that I put on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was collaborating with you and helping to set that up, and some small businesses, some artists. Shout out to Carol, Fort Worth Carol Art, who's been there since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a DJ Jet. Um, we had Lifeless Display on and Como la Flor on. It was a beautiful moment.
Local talent.
Local talent.
Local talent, and I think that's a big thing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you're talking about, that
Mm-hmm.
event that you put on
Mm-hmm.
for El Grito, that's cultural programming,
Right.
okay? And that's something that a lot of communities that are not ours, they just have.
Right.
They just resources.
Mm-hmm.
You want
Get
cultural
sponsorships.
programming, just, they just put them on. And that's something that as people who move around, you and I, we noticed,
Mm-hmm.
right? We were like, well, there's this big void in the north side of cultural
Right.
programming. Even though we
Exactly.
have all the culture in the
Mm-hmm. world.
world,
Mm-hmm.
talk about mariachis,
Mm-hmm.
the backyard fiestas full
Mm-hmm.
of, music,
Mm-hmm.
singers,
Oh my gosh.
entrepreneurs, which we already mentioned, right? Like this is a
Dancers.
backbone of Fort Worth. These are
Yeah.
the people who make Fort Worth, who build Fort Worth
Mm-hmm.
from the ground up. They live in the north side.
Right.
The builders, the constructors, the carpenters, the concrete layers.
Mm-hmm.
That these people are creating literally Fort Worth in
Mm-hmm.
North Texas.
Right.
But they're also full of culture because most of them come from either Mexico, right? Immigrant. It's a very highly Spanish-speaking community. Así que un saludo para nuestra comunidad hispanohablante de Northside. Quiero tomar este momento para hablar español porque se
Sí.
me olvidó. Y quiero mencionar que en el futuro vamos a tener, tal vez sea la próxima semana, vamos a grabar también en español. Porque entendemos que y sabemos que nuestra comunidad es muy hispanohablante, ¿sí? Y hay que crear contenido y tener conversaciones también para nuestra comunidad, especialmente en estos tiempos. Eh, Así es que hoy estuvimos haciendo la introducción en inglés, pero vamos a intentar poner subtítulos en español para nuestra comunidad y luego la próxima semana pues empezaremos también con contenido en español, entrevistas en español. Así es que si usted tiene un negocio, forma parte de la comunidad de Northside y quiere participar en un diálogo de nuestro podcast, pues mándenos un correo o algo y así podemos programarlo. Back to the show. Where were we?
Thank you.
Cultural programming.
Right.
So it's very important that we continue doing that. And Northside Community LLC took it upon itself to create this to fill the void of cultural programming in the north side, because I think the only ones who really put on stuff or have put on stuff, uh, which are events for the community, it might have been like Artes de la Rosa,
For sure.
and for all the great stuff they do, which they do,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Northside and Diamond Hill, I mean, that area is huge. It's a huge area.
And I feel like Arnoldo de la Rosa is just like in the pocket of the introduction of Northside.
Right.
You know,
It's
just
like
coming from
right in
downtown.
Maine, going towards
Right.
downtown,
And
which
it
is going to be Panther Island.
and I wish they could reach more, you know, and I think
Right.
that's what we did at Portico.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
we
deeper
went
in the
into the
north.
deep north side and we collaborated with small businesses, and that one being Portico Coffee. Um, and then the other really cool cultural space that I think is really needed, and now we have it in the north side, is Casa Azul. So Casa Azul is another space. And there's a term out there for these kinds of spaces, which I think is also very important to worth mentioning: third spaces. So third spaces, and you can correct me, I'm sure there's a right definition, but these are spaces where community can gather, that are not your traditional like work 9 to 5, which we spend half of our life, and then home, which is the other half where we spend our life, right? I think outside of that, you have to consume. Like it's restaurants is usually where people go.
Right.
A park, I don't know if a park is considered a third space, but third spaces are places where like you break the mold of these limited areas where we're allowed to be: home, work, consumption. And granted, I mean, you go buy a coffee at Casa Azul or Portico Coffee, but it's just one cup of coffee and you can stay there like all day.
Right.
Right? That's the beauty of these third spaces, like the coffee shops, which I love coffee shop culture, is that you can hang in there. And my experience has been in Casa Azul, for example. I sit there and I'm designing the next magazine, and all these people that I know are coming in and we get to see each other.
I
We
love that.
connect. We
Yeah.
connect, right? Outside of social media in the social age where everyone's so disconnected. We actually get to meet face to face, give each other a hug or a handshake, and sit over coffee and drink and talk.
Shout out to bumping into Choke the other day.
Choke.
That was so
Exactly.
cool.
Exactly.
And Alyssa.
Shout
Yeah.
out. So it brings people together, right? And we need more of those, I think. Um, what do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think we need more spaces to have that cultural programming. Like I'm in need of more spaces to do that. Um, and I'm looking towards small businesses to open up their spaces for us when, you know, traditionally they're not. So
Right.
it's having to bargain with these businesses
Mm,
and kind of tell them, you know, this is the importance of cultural programming. Be a part of it.
mm.
Please be a part of it because it's going to change our community.
And that's hard.
It
I
is.
think that's hard. Is having that conversation with businesses where cultural programming has not been. That we've had that void for since forever, and it's maybe it's unfamiliar territory for a lot of small businesses who are used to functioning a very specific way, traditional
For
way.
finances, for
Yeah,
money.
it's just you got to
Right.
work and make your money, right? And it's like maybe they don't understand the value of cultural programming and how that attracts people. You know, small markets give other small businesses an opportunity,
Right.
and it also attracts new audiences because each one of those vendors has an audience. They have friends, they have family,
Bring
and they
them out to
pull them
your
into your
space.
property
Exactly.
to check out, all these small shops, and then they discover your property. But that's a new concept for a lot of people, and a lot of people shy away from new. And I have a suspicion that's why a lot of people shy away from what we're doing in the north side.
We are advocates for new, for the new, for the change. We keep doing it, and I think.
While respecting what's there
Oh,
and who's
absolutely.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
placekeeping.
that's important. Placekeeping.
Yeah. I think that what maybe throws people off is like how different we are and how we like to just say our piece.
That's a whole conversation. Girl, ooh,
Are we gonna get into that?
are we gonna go into that? I mean, the fact that we are who we are already.
Yeah.
We're queer.
We are queer.
We're queer steers here. And that in our culture and with our conservative Orver story in Texas, Fort Worth, girl.
Right.
That in itself is already like, okay, the what? you're queer and you're saying it out loud.
Oh,
Why do
yeah.
you have to say that out loud? Keep that to yourself. And it's like, well, we're gonna say whatever we want. Free speech, right?
Free
Aren't you all
speech
about free speech?
I'm proud to say it. And it comes into play whenever I'm being creative, whenever I'm expressing who I am,
Mm-hmm.
And I think to be queer and from the North Side is a statement.
And there's so many queers in the North Side. But here's the thing,
Mm-hmm.
and we've talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
There's queers everywhere. It's on the down low, you know? It is. And we know, and you know, everybody knows. We live in a world of lies. Number one, let's talk about that. We live in a world of lies.
Okay.
Is that a statement you can get with or not?
I can.
I that's just what I see.
I mean,
Because
see
anytime you throw truth bombs out there, which they're not bombs,
they're
just truths.
little headlines.
They're just truths. And people like are blown, they lose their over it because they're not used to speaking truth or hearing truth. Like what we just said, like there's a lot of down low people out there, messing around, cheating in a place that is traditionally very religious and very, conservative. But what they do behind, it's like, that does not match. That does not match what you're saying out in public.
I mean, the fear in Texas is real, and I think it hinders people and it makes people angry to see people live their truth and to see people be out and proud.
Because they have to hide it.
Because they have to hide it.
And so they project that anger because deep down inside maybe it's like, I wish I could be out and proud and like live my truth the way you're daring to do it. How dare you live your truth? If I can't. I think that's what they're screaming when they're spewing hate.
For sure.
It's projecting, right? It's projecting and we live in a culture of projection. And maybe that's what it is. It's like projection and lies mixed together. And it's just really toxic.
The cloud is showing itself right now. I think that's part of the cloud. That is, Fort Worth a little bit. And as much as I love this city, as much as I love everyone in it, there are people that are just totally different. And we have totally different views.
Well, nature is very queer. I'll tell you that. Nature is queer. I know that. It is. It's, how can you say that we're only this box? That's crazy. We say that in the beginning. As artists, we're already these complex creatures. We're complex. Humans are complex. And you don't have to be an artist to be complex. All you have to be is human. Human is complex.
Absolutely.
Right? And stop being angry. And I have to tell myself that a lot. Stop being angry and try to pour out more love into the world.
Oh, yeah. I tell myself that every day. The more love you give, the more love you get.
And that's just karma. That's just like the law of attraction. That's just like a basic equation.
Yeah.
Like 1 + 1 = 2.
I'm glad we're talking about this because I think it shows kind of who we are, where we're coming from when it comes to our work. That we really are just trying to give back to the community and create a beautiful place that we know that we deserve.
Yeah. Create opportunities. Create
Absolutely.
opportunities in a place that claims to have opportunities. Because there are opportunities, I'm sure. They're out there. It's just traditionally they haven't been in the North Side. And I still think even if it's coming into the North Side, it's very particular to like certain areas of the North Side.
Who you know.
Who you know. So that's another that's a whole other thing, right? Let's talk business type of thing. That's how politics and business works. But yeah, it's very complex. All of it is very complex. We're all just trying to navigate this world together, with each other, through each other, around each other. Some of us are having a lot of fun while doing it because that's how I want to live my existence. I want to have a good time.
Absolutely.
In the limited time that we have on this planet, on this realm. And I think you and I are doing that. Am I correct? Are you having fun?
I'm having fun. Okay. I was just about to ask you, are you having fun right now?
No, this is fun. I mean, and the fact that we have these tools, like this podcast studio at Blank Space, shout out to Blank Space, co-working and studio, because it's one of the things that we also don't have in the North Side. Talking about resources.
Right.
But so you and I have taken it upon ourselves to go out of Northside and into the world, whether it's Fort Worth, Barcelona, Austin, and live our truths, be happy, fill our cups how we want to fill our cups, and then come back and share that abundance
Mm-hmm.
with our community and with each
Absolutely.
other.
Yeah.
More importantly, with each other.
Right.
That's how I handle the world. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm gonna go take care of myself. I'm gonna go have fun
Mm-hmm.
in the world.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to Barcelona and go to the beach, lay on the beach all day every day, and then come to Fort Worth and work hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
like finding that balance act.
I like finding the balance.
It's
That's what it's
so
all about.
important.
It's hard sometimes, but you have to do it because working super hard at one space, putting all your eggs in one basket, I mean, that basket could just tip over and fall away from you, and you're
So
left with
let's
nothing.
talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
Unsolicited advice based off what Gabe just said. Do not put all your eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
And that can apply to literally anything in
Mm-hmm.
life. Am I right or am I right?
I think staying loyal between each basket is important as well. You know, being loyal to what you're working on, being passionate about everything you're working on is important.
Intentional, right?
And being intentional with all of the opportunities you give yourself and the places you're working at is important for sure. But I think it is important to have a variety of, where
Diversity, diversify.
diversified resume. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that's why I don't live here full time.
And you taught me that though too. Thank you for that.
Yeah, because when it's like in a relationship, it's something that I learned. Like when you give too much, it almost seems it can come across as like needy
Mm-hmm.
and like in Spanish there's the word empalagoso, like too sweet, like it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it can be interpreted that way, even if it's not the intention.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it can make people say, "Oh, that's too much," like it can overstimulate.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing applies, I think, to like putting
Mm-hmm.
your energy into one basket.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you do that, it can oversaturate that area
Mm-hmm.
that maybe not ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so putting that energy in other things intentionally, of
Mm-hmm.
course, so that if it's not working out here for now,
Mm-hmm.
you put it over here for now and
Exactly.
take care of yourself in the meantime until this other basket's ready to like, you know, give back to
Give back to
you
you. I like
and
that.
give you the dividends
Mm-hmm.
of that investment, right? But sometimes you got to back away
Mm-hmm.
and let them eggs hatch, right?
Yeah.
But in the meantime, while they're hatching, you go somewhere else and
Mm-hmm.
you take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You go have fun. Not. It's not all about work. In a overstory that tells you that you have to work and slave away,
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
order to be happy and to
Mm-hmm.
buy all the crap that you don't need. That's another trap that people fall into, and I'm just like, that's not for me. If it's for you, great, but it's not for me. Is
I
it for you?
No, I like to play. I love the balance of my dad always said, work hard, play hard. You gotta work hard, you gotta play hard, just as hard because you deserve it and you deserve that balance in your life, and you deserve the family time and the work time and the partner time and the
Mm-hmm.
you time.
Mm.
You deserve it all. So I hope that whoever's listening to this podcast gets a little bit out of it. I hope that they learn about us. I hope that
And themselves.
and themselves, yeah. And that if you want to reach out to me or Arnoldo to work with us, to work with Northside Community LC in any facet, or you know, um,
If you have ideas,
if you have ideas,
collaborations,
please reach out.
yeah. So what's coming up? What's something that people can jump on right away? They say, this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do I reach out? What can they do?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
_mix. I think that's my Instagram handle. The Mix on Instagram, and then we have our Facebook page,
What about the Northside one?
the North
They're on
Northside
Instagram
Community
too.
Northside Community Fort Worth
Mm-hmm.
on Instagram. And then you can find our magazine, and you could read and learn about us and what we've already done. And you could find those.
There's a website, so
Oh, right, our website.
northsidefortworth.com.
Right.
And there's a digital version of the magazines in
Yes.
English and in Spanish, so that you guys can read
Mm-hmm.
what we've been up to. So we try to document all the things that we're doing ourselves, but also complementing what's happening out with businesses,
Mm-hmm.
nonprofits in the North Side. And if you're a business and you like what we're doing and you like our storytelling and you want to tell your story, we have advertising on this magazine that you can do. So, you can support the storytelling tools that we have and tell your story at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the end of the day, what we're doing at Northside Community LLC is we are harnessing the power of community,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to create community.
Mm-hmm.
We have to work together in a place where people are used to doing it all alone.
Mm-hmm.
That's the struggle. It's convincing people that we can do this together,
Mm-hmm.
right?
To ask for help.
To ask for help and to be a little vulnerable and say, like, yeah, we don't all have the answers to everything, but when we work together, we fill each other's blind spots
And we can make it happen.
and we can make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, that's gonna take a while, and that's okay. Like, we found each other.
Mm-hmm.
We found each other. We've in the last 8 years, we found other amazing people that we're working with. Selena Cruz Photography is one of them. Roxanne Quiroz just helped us find a sponsor for our networking event here at Blank.
Really?
Yeah, from Sam's Club.
Roxanne?
Yeah, Dee from the historic North Side.
Right.
Like, these are all people
Catherine.
that they understand the power of working together, and it shows when we work together. I think it's really showing, and it's gonna show more. I think people are gonna be blown away. Blank space, like, they're working with us, and if this isn't proof enough that awesome things can happen when we work together, that's one of the things that we want to show people is community and collaboration go a long way, right?
Absolutely.
Great. So I think we're good for today.
Yeah.
Yeah, our
think
story ends here for today, to be continued. And next podcasts, I'm going to be here for another one. So I'll be interviewing a couple of people. And then Gabe, you're going to take over. Gabe is going to take over, and Gabe has opened the door to another portal and knows a wide variety of characters.
In 817, all my Funky Town guests will be super excited to be here and super excited to meet you guys. So stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. Un saludo. Stay safe, stay warm, and we'll talk soon. Ciao.